ఆపతాం అపహర్తారం దాతారం సర్వసంపదాం లోకావిరామం శ్రీరామం భూయో భూయో నమామ్యహం. రామాయ రామభద్రాయ రామచంద్రాయ వేగసే రఘునాథాయ నాథాయ సీతాపతయే నమః. Seeking the benediction of Lord Ramachandra Murthy for the welfare of humanity, I raise to address you today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this pleasant and solemn function organized this evening on the occasion of the commemoration of the Pranapratishtha of Ram Lalla in his Janmasthan in Ayodhya. It is a watershed in the long history of our civilization, which spans several millennia and predates all other civilizations of the world. It's a red-letter day in the history of free and independent India that at long last, the Astha, the Akanksha, the Abhilasha, the aspirations of countless number of Ram Bhaktas in the country and even beyond have been fulfilled with the consecration of Lord Rama in his Janmasthan. Babur invaded India in the year 1526. He came from the Hindu Kush region, the northern plains now presently called as Afghanistan, and whatever he came across in the northern plains of the country, the low-down Himalayas, he plundered and looted everything that came his way and demolished every temple of faith that came along his way. In the year 1528, Babur reached Ayodhya, and the temple of Ram Lalla unfortunately fell a victim to his savagery and brutality. It has taken 495 years, to be precise, for getting Ram Lalla back into the abode from where he was worshipped from his Janmasthan. During this interregnum of 495 years, 240 years pertained to the British rule in India. The country was reduced to a vassal state, subordinated to the crown, and the oft-acclaimed policy of the British of divide and rule fitted very well to keep the issue burning and alive during the course of the colonization of our country. But it is a sad irony that it has taken 75 years after India secured its freedom and independence to get this beautiful day for all of us. Succeeding generations of politicians, people who were elected to power, all in the name of electoral gains and petty politics, have impeded the Janmabhoomi movement. There is a school of thought that it was not Babur who demolished this temple at Ayodhya, that it was indeed Aurangzeb who had demolished it. But the fact that the mosque that was erected on the ruins of the temple always was called as Babri Masjid. Therefore, it gives full credence to the fact that it is Babur and Babur alone who had demolished the Ram temple at Ayodhya. Today is a day for thanksgiving. And of course, to Prabhu Ramachandra Murthy for having given us this blessed day. The Ishopanishad says, Isavasyam idam sarvam yat kanchane jagatyam jagat. Whatever happens, wherever happens, is permeated by the same divine force. It is that divine force, those positive forces that have given us this blessed day today. It's also a day for remembering, thanksgiving for countless number of people who had sacrificed their lives in the cause of the Janmabhoomi for Ram over these 495 years. There are still some who had pledged their entire life for the cause of Ram temple, and there are still few who had made a noticeable contribution to the progress of the Janmabhoomi movement that had ultimately resulted in what we are experiencing today. First and foremost, our eternal gratitude rests with the Archaeological Society of India, and particularly with its Northern Division, its Director Professor Lal, and the subsequent task force which is headed by K.K. Ahmed. He kept his faith behind his profession, painstakingly went about collecting the soil around the Janmasthan based on the mandate given by the Allahabad High Court. And the evidence that were being created and compiled led to a conclusive evidence that there existed a temple on the ruins of which the mosque was erected. And this was a clinching evidence in later years to determine the title to the property of the land on which the Janmasthan temple has been erected. Second, of course, is to the majestic nature of the judiciary of this land. It had taken several years in the lower courts and in the Allahabad High Court. When all the appeals against the orders of the Allahabad High Court, the intervention applications, the miscellaneous applications, the interlocutory proceedings, all combined together, reached the Supreme Court of India. There also it languished for some time, till a judge came who took unto himself that it shall be decided during his tenure of office in the Supreme Court. To Ranjan Gogoi, we are eternally grateful for not only ensuring that the matter was accelerated onto the main board. He constituted a full bench, a bench of 5 judges to hear the matter, and that too on a day-to-day basis with no excuse for adjournments. And he had committed that the judgment shall be delivered before he demits office on superannuation. These 5 judges, of which Ranjan Gogoi was the presiding judge as the Chief Justice of the court, and 2 other judges who later became the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court with the current one who was also part of the bench, and 2 others gave an unanimous verdict in favor of the Hindu petitioners, rejecting the claims of the Waqf Board and countless number of Muslim petitioners who had come along claiming pieces and parcels of land in the total acres of land that were available in the Janmasthan. We take a bow for Judge Nasir. Abdul Nasir was a man who believed nation first, justice always, and self last. He joined his brother judges in giving an unanimous verdict which paved the way for the temple that has been erected on that land. When the Janmabhoomi case was being heard at lightning speed, Indian jurisprudence says that the idol is also a juridical person. It is entitled to sue and be sued upon. And it fell onto the shoulders of the nonagerian senior advocate, former Solicitor General of India, K. Parasaran, to defend Ram Lalla himself. At that ripe age of 90, when he touched on to the Supreme Court of India, he extensively went through the title deeds of the property, leaving no doubt for the judges to believe that the Hindu petitioners who had claimed ownership to the land alone could be the owners of that land. Not only that, he took the judges through several facets of various religions, Hindu, Islam, Sikhism too, as to where a temple ought to be, where a mosque ought to be, or where a mosque ought not to be or a temple ought not to be, and what are the essential elements of a place of faith where a worship takes place in all religions of the world. He quoted copiously, generously from the 7 volumes of Voice of God, which were based on the discourses of the Mahaswami of Kanchi, in whose name this institution remains. Such was the profound impact it made on the judges that they intervened and said that they can take nothing on record unless they too get copies of the books on which Parasaran was keeping reliance on. Parasaran pleaded innocence to say, I don't know, I was given these copies, I don't know who are the publishers who are giving it across. Ultimately, it fell onto my shoulders as the publisher of these books to address the needs of the judges. When the judges themselves came on the line to me and said, please give us these copies if we have to rely on them. So to all the 5 judges of the Supreme Court, and then to the Library of the Supreme Court and to the Registrar General's office, 7 volumes of Voice of God, each set of them were given to them. Of course, at a price, because the Supreme Court will never take it gratis, even though I said these are not books for sale. But then it was given to them for a price at which alone they could take. In a small way, the discourses of the sage of Kanchi too had contributed to the success of the litigation in the Supreme Court of India. When Parasharan was arguing the case, 4.5 hours together, when that old man were to stand and plead his advocacy before the judges took compassion on him and told him, "You can sit down and argue." To which Parasharan said, "All my life, I have taken briefs from several of my paid clients. I have stood my ground and advocated their cause. How blessed I am today that I am defending the Lord Himself. I can never imagine that I can sit down and defend Him." All through the proceedings in the Supreme Court of India, he came barefoot, keeping his slippers outside the chambers of the Chief Justice. We bow to that devotion, that regard, in addition to the legal acumen of Parasharan, which has won the day, which has given us this day today. The thoughts of the sage of Kanchi had such a profound impact on the judges that one of the judges of the bench, who later became the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, had to call me up and say, "I now need copies in Marathi." And fortunately for me, we had translated in almost all the languages. So, Sadguru Vachanamrut was given to him, and he said, "It's for my mother," because she said, "You cannot read unless you get me one." And all during his tenure in the Supreme Court, every day, he used to read 10 pages of Voice of God before reaching the Supreme Court. He has retired. He has a peaceful life now at Nagpur, and he continues to do so. Both his wife and her mother also join him in reading a minimum of 10 pages every day. Such is the impact that the sage had made on the judiciary, on the advocates, to carry the day in the Supreme Court of India. In the year 1986, thanks to the orders of the lower court, inspired by one man which history has never given due recognition, it is Arun Nehru, the locks of the Ram Lalla temple were opened up for darshan. And when they were opened up for darshan, the very next day, the Mahaswami of Kanchi ordered to make a silver chatram and 2 samrams, again made of silver, to be given to Ram Lalla. He directed his disciple, Jayendra Saraswati Swamigal, who was already on a Uttara Parikrama. He was walking those days to walk down to Ayodhya and offer it reverentially to Ram Lalla, and which Jayendra Saraswati Swamigal did with great reverence and regard. And from that day, in the year 1986, he became the chief spokesman, appealing and exhorting countrymen to work towards the realization of a temple for Lord Ram in Ayodhya. Ali Mian Nadvi is one of the foremost Islamic scholars of our living times. He was the president of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. He had great regard and reverence for the Mahaswami of Kanchi. So he came all the way to Kanchipuram, took darshan of the sage and pleaded with him to bring both the Muslims and the Hindus together and resolve this issue and stop once for all destruction to life and property that has been taking place wantonly all across the country. The sage by that time had already abdicated his pontificate and was engaged in higher purposes of life to reach to Almighty. And he therefore directed his disciple, Jayendra Saraswati Swamigal, to work as a mediator to help resolve the issue. The then Bade Pradhan of the country, Swargiya Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, he requested the sage of Kanchi, Jayendra Swamigal, to do the mediation on behalf of the government of India. Such was the Catholicity, the honesty, sincerity of purpose, fairness in dealings of Jayendra Periva that he endeared himself to the Muslim brethren in no time. Over several rounds of negotiations, he ultimately brought about a settlement for the Janmabhoomi land. And this was endorsed by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. Then he said, again based on what Mr. Vajpayee requested him to say, that you announce it to the country after 1 week, because I need to take it to my people and to the cabinet and others before it can come to the public domain. But 7 days in politics is too long a period. To a section of the government, they felt it is a sellout. They refused to toe the line and put undue pressure on Vajpayee to the extent that he would have lost his government. Emissaries were sent across at dead of night to plead with the sage of Kanchi to alter the terms of settlement, which the sage would not. Because he had earned such credibility in his negotiations as a mediator that he said, I can't do that. And then it fell on the government to modify that final settlement. And all that they did was to say that Mathura and Kashi will be excluded from the scope of the settlement, while the sage had included them as part of the settlement, saying that Hindus will not raise the issue of Mathura and Kashi after Ayodhya is given to them. It took no time for the All India Muslim Personal Law Board from Lucknow to throw that settlement into the garbage. It has taken 21 long years since then to get this day when Ram Lalla gets to his rightful abode. On the 7th of July 2003, the sage of Kanchi had announced that he will hold a press conference at New Delhi and give the terms of settlement of this entire issue. That day did come, and the sage was forced to say that Mathura and Kashi will be excluded. And he regretted that for the rest of his life till he demised. So this was the history of what had happened during that time. When the foundation stone for the Janmabhoomi temple was laid on the 5th of August 2020, the present sage of Kanchi, Puji Sri Shankar Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal, sent across 5 priests to perform the Bhumi Pujan. Not only that, he gave a wooden shank. Shank is conch, a big wooden shank, and several coins in gold and silver of Ram Lalla and Lakshmi to be placed in the pit on which the foundation was laid, over which the Garbhagraham has come today. He also gave a tanjore painting of Ram Lalla and Lakshmi to be kept in the temple later after the temple sees the light of the day. Even the various vidhis that are being performed today, or 5 or 7 days before, were all formulated by the sage of Kanchi. He nominated 5 scholars from Kashi who were mandated to detail the entire vidhi for the prana pratishtha to be done. So it does not lie in the mouth of a few Shankaracharyas of north of India to say that the date is not auspicious, the temple is not completed, because they found it difficult to accept the fact that there is no space for them in the most visible space of Ram Janmabhoomi, which is before the nation. And slowly, they too are making amends to say that there could have been no better day than this day. This is the contribution of the Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham and the Ram temple at Ayodhya. Let me now take you to things which you would never know, to the larger plank of the connect between Kanchipuram and Ayodhya. In Brahmanda Purana, which is one of the 18 Puranas that Bhagavan Vedavyasa wrote, Both these are referred to as the Prithvi Kshetras, of the Panchabhuta Kshetras ascribed to Lord Shiva. These two are also part of the Moksha Puris. It's the belief of Hindus that if a person is born in any of these 7 places and it demises there, he will be liberated from the bondage of the cycle of birth and death. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, said Adi Shankara in Bhajagovindam. That liberation will come to him if he were to be born over there. Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya, Kashi, Kanchi, Avantika, Dwaraka Puri, Ete Sapta Moksha Puri. In chapter 39 and 40 of Lalitopyaginam of Brahmanda Purana, there is reference to Lord Rama and Kanchipuram. King Dasharatha bemoaned the fact that despite the several tapas that he has done and the yagas that he had performed, self-purification that he had done, he could not beget children from his several wives. One day in his dreams, the call of the yonder came, beckoned him to go 2000 miles away to Kanchipuram to have darshan of Amba Kamakshi and Amba's blessings be taken before he can think of deliverance for the pain that he is suffering. So Dasharatha, along with his wives, came all the way to Kanchipuram, interned himself in the sanctum sanctorum of the goddess, meditated upon her intensely, and also performed a Putra Kameshti Yagyam in Kanchipuram, which pleased the devotee, the god, to no end. She blessed him. And therefore, when he returned to Ayodhya, it was Kausalya who conceived first. And Lord Rama was born out of her womb. If Ayodhya is the Janmasthan of Lord Rama, the origin of his birth can be related to Kanchipuram. So this is the national integration that we are talking about right from the times of the Puranas. There are several versions of Ramayana after Valmiki had first written it. But there is one commonality, consistency only in the Yuddhakandam and the Vijayakandam. All of them have agreed that when Lord Rama vanquished Ravana, that day is celebrated as the day of victory of goodness over evil. And that day we call it as Dashera. It is done on the Dasami day, the 10th day, after the 9 days of Shravana Navaratri in the Shravana period, which are devoted to the 3 goddesses, Durga Lakshmi and Saraswati. So, Vijayadashmi day is the day on which Lord Rama vanquished Ravana. He then handed over the kingdom to his devotee and the brother of Ravana, Vibhishana. Vibhishana pleaded with Rama that he should rule the kingdom of Sri Lanka and that he pledged himself at his lotus feet for the rest of his life to be of service to Lord Rama. It was then that Lord Rama gave those words of wisdom which have set the gold standards for what you and I today loosely understand as patriotism or nationalism. When Rama said, Janani Janma Bhumischa Swargadapi Gariyasi, mother and motherland are greater than paradise on the earth. And therefore, he bequeathed the kingdom to Vibhishana and told him, it's your motherland. And then he found his way to his motherland. When he came to Ayodhya, the entire town wore a festive look. All the people had come down onto the streets of Ayodhya. In their choicest dresses, they were singing, dancing. Temple bells were chiming. And the best of religious offerings were done in temples across Ayodhya on the return of Lord Rama to Ayodhya. And diyas were lit. And when diyas were lit across the temples, across the roads of Ayodhya, there was an avali of the deepas. Avali in Sanskrit means row or series. When the lamps are kept in a series like what you see over here, it is called as Deepavali. So that is why the day when Rama returned to Ayodhya is celebrated as Deepavali. In addition, subsequently, because Krishna Avataram came much later, Narakasura Vada, which took place, is also taken as the day of victory of forces of goodness over evil for Deepavali. But the origin of Deepavali is Lord Rama's return to Ayodhya. If his return to Ayodhya after 14 years could have generated so much of enthusiasm, so much of festivity, it has taken 495 years to get him back to Ayodhya. So the celebrations should have a geometric scale. That is why the entire country is celebrating today. Diyas are lit across not only the temples of the land, even there are 1,000 mosques which are today been lit with diyas. Public places are lit, schools and colleges are lit, assemblies and auditoriums are lit, and therefore we can be no exception to that. But it has taken 34 long years for this Sabha to have the lamps lit over here. On the 28th of February 1990, one small wick was good enough to bring the entire building down. And from then on, there was no lighting of the lamps over here. And today we have 1,008 Ram Jyotis, as we have called it, lit across the auditorium, including in the front of this auditorium. But over these 3 decades, technology has also progressed. So we don't need now oil and wick. These are all water-based lamps. And they being not flammable will not destroy this auditorium. So you all can be rest assured that nothing will happen by lighting this auditorium with this advancement in technology that lits a lamp with water. And that's what we have done. And in our own core competence, in the field in which we know, we decided to offer it to Lord Rama today. And that is why we said we will give him a Sangeet Abhishekam. Because that is our core competence. And we wanted to weave a garland of kritis written by several Vagekaras in several languages starting from Awadh and all the languages of the south which are conventionally used in Carnatic music. Weave them as a garland across the life journey of Lord Rama on this planet Earth. And that is the reason why we said of the 7 kandas that are written over there for you, which are the stages of evolution of Lord Rama. The kritis have been selected for each of this stage of evolution of the Lord as he emerged as a Lord later, and simultaneously there shall be an Abhishekam to Lord. This is a Sangeet Abhishekam, that is an Abhishekam with the Vedic rituals to him. 1 year before we decided that this day in the month of January will come. And I think our prophecy was stronger than that of even the Prime Minister, I think. Because when Uttarayanam comes, good things will come. So we were damn sure that it is going to come. And we had ordered these beautiful vigrahas of the Panchadhatu, the Panchalokas, then soaked in gold and given to us from the distant Nachiyar Koil in the Tanjore district of Tamil Nadu. So today, if they are available to you, they all were done a year before and brought in, waiting for this day. If this morning, this afternoon, the idol for Lord Ram of Yogiraj of Karnataka had the Abhishekam did not take place, subsequently they had done. Our Lord also gets the first Abhishekam for the Utsavamurti today. So, to those of us who had not seen what happened in Ayodhya in the afternoon today, you could very well see it when it happens over here. There can never be a day better than this day to have the consecration, the Prana Pratishtha of Ram Lalla being done. There have been several claims, counterclaims from people learned, erudite people who started saying, why not during Ramanavami? But to all of them, these days were settled by the sage of Kanchi in consultation with 5 of the senior most scholars from Kashi, who had chronicled the complete sequence of events. It is Uttarayanam. The Dakshinayanam phase has gone. The moon now waxes from a phase of waning. He is in the upper curve. And the entire consecration was done at the Abhijit Muhurtam of 1220, 1219 and odd, which is again ascribed to Lord Shiva when he vanquished the Asura and Tripurasura, which again symbolizes the destruction of all evil forces. The star for the day is Mrigashisham. Mrigashisham, symbolized by the deer, is of Lord Soma, the moon god. And it is the god of immortality. And that god is the epitome of knowledge and experience. And I should tell you, Mrigashisham is also the Janma Nakshatram of the senior sage of Shringeri Sharthapidam, His Holiness Bharati Tirtha Mahasanidanam. So, this day is also a Amrita Siddha Yogam and Sarva Siddhi Yogam. I would genuinely believe that if religious scholars were to get into politics because they didn't get space, it's time they realize that there are equally good scholars who can also decide what the scriptures say. On such a beautiful occasion, this day, we were all blessed to have witnessed Ram Lalla in his Janmasthan. And to get a deity like that, whose eyes are too sharp enough for you to see in that Balakandam of the Lord himself. That's why it's Lalla over there. Because to some of us who started asking, there is no Sita over there, there is no Anjaneya over there. He is a child who has not yet been married. So that's why it's Ram Lalla over there. Ramo Vigrahan Dharmaha. The scriptures did not say this. It was the demon Marisan who told Ravana. When he implored Marisan to abduct Sita from Dandakaranya and bring her to Lanka, he said Rama is the epitome of Dharma. And then he said Rama is Dharma himself. He pleaded with Ravana that this should not be done. But Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi. So that the rest is all history. And we belong to a religion which is Vaidika Sanatana Dharmam. So our religion's primary focus is Dharmam. And that is why you can see the clamoring in north of India, wherever you go, Dharmaka Vijay ho, Adharmaka Nash ho. They don't want Adharma to survive. Only Dharma should survive. He is the epitome of Dharma. Valmiki described Rama to Narada with the 16 qualities that made him very unique. But the scriptures speak of only 6 qualities for the Lord. Udyamam sahasam dhairyam buddhir shaktir parakramaha shatate yatra disyante devo pi tatra tishtati. Don't have to look upwards for the Lord. In any person where you see these 6 qualities, the Lord will be seen over there. These qualities were available in full measure, much more than 100% in Rama. That is why he not only acquired godliness, he became God himself. In the Treta Yuga, he conclusively proved that an ordinary human being can also raise through righteousness and good conduct to become the Lord himself. That is why of the 10 avatara that we have, the Rama avatara came signifying Dharma. And as the Prime Minister said this afternoon, this is the essence of the consecration, that as Vishwa Gurus, which we hear several millenniums before, it's time to use the tenets of dharma and righteousness that Lord Rama gave to take it across the shores of this country without any discrimination, without any classification. That is the greatness of the consecration that has taken place today. It is one thing to celebrate a day, one day, and then every one of us will forget. It's time that the government goes beyond the consecration that has been very successfully done to declare possibly this day as the National Day of Reconciliation. When the Dancha was brought down the 6th of December 1992, it had brought about an irrevocable, irredeemable cleavage between the Hindus and the Muslims. A spectre of insecurity came across both the religions in their vyavaharas. A nation got divided vertically across two faiths, which are the dominant faiths in the nation. To the countless number of Muslims that I had said, who had done well to support the cause of Ram Lalla, I add one more to you. The Ram Janmabhoomi Tirtha Trust for the Nyas has done well to promote this principle of reconciliation. Therefore, they took the invitation and went all the way to Iqbal Ansari, the original petitioner. His father was the original petitioner, he died. He has sustained it over the last half a century. And he had come back from the namaz on that Friday afternoon, last Friday, when it was handed over to him and requested to attend. And this is what he said: Ram does not belong only to you. Imam-e-Hind, he said. He is the spiritual guru of the entire country, Hind. Therefore, we have equal claim on him as you have. And he accepted the invitation and he came. It is that spirit of reconciliation that needs to be carried forward as we celebrate this day every year. World over, this day is celebrated as the UN declared day for sanctity of human life. That's how it's being celebrated today. There can be no better embodiment than Lord Rama as the best sanctity of what human life can be. As the world celebrates sanctity of life, India celebrates Lord Rama as the best epitome of that. And soon this may go across the world to celebrate this day as the day of human sanctity depicted by Lord Rama. As I come to the end of my address this evening, long as it were, because I gave you stories which were outside the public domain today, because I had a very long innings to play in Ram Janmabhoomi movement, and I can not share the other things which are over there. But whatever I gave can be for public consumption this evening. May the good Lord bless us all. May we incorporate into our lives through passage of time in this eternal quest in our pilgrimage of perfection a little of those 6 gunas that Lord Rama had and make our life sublime. Thank you and God bless.